You're listening to Game On with Jackson Stuart.
Life is good, but you, player, deserve something great. Follow Game On with Jackson Stuart on social media and get the latest advice, tips, and life hacks. Follow at Game On with Jack on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Lastly, hook yourself up with news you can use, interviews, posts, articles, and more on men's lifestyle, health, and success. See you at www.gameonwithjack.blog. Life's a game. Time to play. Time to win.
Lo bueno que era estar a solas, sin que me juzguen, con mis amigas cantando rolas, que me aprecien, pero no tanto. Quiero estar sola, estar soltera, no disponible y siendo.
Good people, sexy people, welcome back to another edition of Game On with Jackson Stuart. I'm your host, and as always, I want to extend that gratitude and appreciation for you guys taking time out from your busy schedule, busy evenings, etc., to, tune into the show, support the game, support what we're doing here, spread the good word, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. Tonight, we're wrapping up a trilogy, a series of one of my favorite topics, especially for good guys, not nice guys. We're not talking about nice guys. Nice guys are bad. Good guys, that's what you want to be. Even the best players suffer from being exploited, being used up by the people and places that you work with, care for, love, or close to, etc. So tonight we're wrapping up Exploitation Equation. Roses are red flags. 6 clear signs you're being used in a relationship. First topic, we talked about if you're being used at work. The second topic was if you're being used by your family and friends. Tonight, fellas, we're talking about that romantic relationship that you're in. Maybe it's early on, maybe you've been in it for a while, but these are signs that you're being used. So, before we move on, always want to invite you guys to follow Game On with Jackson Stuart on social media. You guys been liking and subscribing on YouTube. Really appreciate that. YouTube.com at Game On with Jack. Blog, GameOnWithJack.blog. Twitter, same handle, Game On with Jack. Same with Instagram. And Facebook, Game On with Jackson is the page. So, follow, like, comment, all that good stuff. Share. Really would appreciate all that stuff. And let me know. I mean, you guys are giving me feedback, especially for the Ask Jack episodes. But, let me know what topics are working for you, what topics are not, what questions, do you have, etc. Because when one of us gets better in the game, we all get better in the game. So with that having been said, let's get on to tonight's topic about roses are red flags, 6 clear signs you're being used in a relationship. So, while many of us unfortunately encounter at some point in our romantic lives being used, some of us get used at certain points in time, but it's not consistent, right? So, some of these red flags might be pointers for you to do some course adjustment in your relationship, not to completely terminate the thing. But it happens to the best of us, right? And that's why we're talking about it tonight. So, relationships are meant to be mutual, enriching, and full of respect. That works same for, your job. Your job pays you. You give the job back a service. Sure, there might be some emotional attachment to your job and the people you work with, but for the most part, it's transactional. Your family and friends, give and get back and forth. Same with a romantic relationship, except there's that extra level of intimacy. But sometimes things don't go as they should, and you find yourself in a situation where your partner just isn't as invested as you are. And it's tough, right? Because we're all different. Some people are just naturally better at giving. Some people are naturally better at managing time for the people who are that they're involved with. Some people are better listeners. So it gets tricky. Like, when can you tell if he or she just listens better than you do, or if you listen better than they do, if you're better at sex than they are? Like, sure, there are some things that are just unique to that person, but we're talking about red flags, signs are being used that are pretty obvious tonight. So these should kind of help you steer clear of what's a difference in an approach and skill level versus what is just, blatant exploitation. So uncovering the 6 signs that you might be getting used in your romantic relationship, it's a critical discussion because recognizing these signs early can save you from emotional pain, wasted time, and financial loss. I mean, how much money? If you've ever been in a relationship that ended, how much time and money did you spend? Did you invest in it? And that's tough, and that's in addition to whatever heartbreak or heartache you might be dealing with. So we're going to talk about, because I love to give you guys takeaways, how to address these issues and take steps to ensure that you're in a relationship that's healthy, right? And fulfilling and worthy of your time and worthy of you, because you guys kick ass. So get comfy and let's jump into the first red flag, the first sign that you might be getting used. So sign number 1, the relationship feels one-sided. Yes. One of the most telling signs you're being used in a relationship is when it feels entirely one-sided. And what do I mean by this? So it's when you're the one putting in all the effort, whether it's planning dates, maintaining communication, or simply just showing up for your partner emotionally. They're having a bad day or bad morning and they bleed all over you. Well, you're there to catch the blow with a bucket and put Band-Aids on how they feel about it. But when it's your turn, where they at? It seems like they're contributing little next to nothing. So in a healthy relationship, both partners should be equally invested. Granted, you are never going to be 50-50. You might be 60-40, you might be 80-20. But you should never be the same 60-40 or the same 80-20. Sure, there's moments when you step up and take care of their needs, but then there should be equal amount of moments where they step up and take care of your needs. You shouldn't always be the one putting in the work. There should be a balance in the give and take. But when you're always the one making sacrifices, always the one reaching out, that's a red flag. So takeaway. I think last week I put the takeaways at the end of the show, but I want to put them in after we hit each red flag, each sign that you're being used. If you find that your relationship is consistently one-sided, it's time to reevaluate your partnership. A relationship should be a two-way street. So start by having an open conversation with your partner about how you feel. Don't assume that they're doing this just to screw you over. It just might be their nature. It just might be how they were raised. It might be, their style, their behavior. If you assume the worst, you could be ending a relationship that could be, modified or adjusted. So let them know how you feel. Give them a chance to address it. Give them a chance to change if they say they're going to change. And then if nothing alters, if nothing gets better, if nothing does change, well, then it might be time to consider moving on. Our second red flag, our second sign that you are in the exploitation equation for romantic relationships, your partner only reaches out when they need something. Oh, man, I feel a lot of people are wincing at all of this today. The second sign is when your partner only seems to contact you when they need something. This could be anything from financial support to emotional reassurance or even just a favor. If they are only around when it benefits them and disappears when you need them, that's a clear indication that they're using you. All right. So a genuine partner, somebody who's really, ass to elbows, as a dear friend of mine used to say, he wanted his, he wanted his partner back to back. She had him. She was covering the rear. They should be there for you through thick and thin, not just when it's convenient for them. If you feel like you're more of a resource than a partner, it's essential to take a step back and assess the situation. Once again, give and take. And instead of saying balance, let's say harmony, right? Because balance doesn't always exist. Actually, balance rarely exists, but there's harmony. And I've talked about this in the show a bunch of times, you know. Harmony is like jazz. There's moments when the trumpet player gets the solo and everybody kind of goes quiet, or when the drummer, it doesn't mean the rest of the band disappears, but they take a step back and they get quieter to support or showcase this other person playing. And then the trumpeter or whoever is the soloist takes a step back and somebody else steps forward. So that is a type of balance, because it's like an 80-20, but it's more of a harmony. So there should be a harmony, but it should not always include you getting the shaft, right? You getting the least amount. And we've all been there. Like, as soon as you see their text or their phone call, part of you goes, oh shit, now what do they want? Now what do they need? And, you know, or you try and, you know, they hit you up at the butt crack of dawn because they're having some emotional fit or need money or need something. And then if you try to hit them up the same time the next day or a week later, you can't find them. So when it's your turn to bleed, it's harder to get a hold of them than when it's their turn. Like, you always have their back. You're always there. And I tell people a big difference is when you can tell one of you has to find time to reach out and the other one of you makes time to reach out. All right. So takeaway from this one, monitor how often your partner reaches out just to check in on you, or spend quality time together versus how often they contact you when they need something. And you got to be clear with this, because a lot of people are good at asking how you're doing in pleasantries. And then, like, in the same conversation, they hit you up with an ask. All right. So if the latter outweighs the former, you may be in a transactional relationship rather than a romantic one. So if it's more of like they need, then you're a resource. I mean, I hate to put it that way. And so you got to figure out what you want to do about that. Sign number 3, lack of emotional support. So emotional support is the backbone of any strong relationship that's not work related. Even work, you know, unless you work with a bunch of robots all day, even work should provide some emotional support. You know, you have a team, you have a boss, you are a boss, you have a manager, you are humans. At some point, you're all going to provide one another with emotional support. Even if it's like, hey, good job, or hey, we got this, or whatever, like some level of either encouragement or acknowledgement. You know, I mean, you may not be crying on each other, but there's still some emotional support. So any relationship's got to have it. And what helps couples weather the storms of life together is when there is a strong and unshakable amount, a foundation of emotional support. But if your partner is emotionally unavailable, indifferent, or dismissive when you're going through tough times, or you can't find them when you're going through tough times, that's a significant sign you're being used. Because when they're going through stuff, I guarantee you they could find you under a rock, underwater, across the world, at midnight, at night. When it's their turn, oh, I'm sorry, I went to sleep early. Oh, I'm sorry, I had my phone on vibrate. I'm sorry. Like, they always got some bullshit reason why they weren't available. But when it's the other way around, there you are. So in a relationship where one person is being used, the emotional connection is often shallow, non-existent, or on life support. It's like bare minimum. Your partner might not be interested in your feelings, your struggles, or your well-being, or they might not be interested enough for you to call this a relationship. You know, if your emotional support is anemic, that still means that there's a problem. They may avoid deep conversations or fail to show empathy when you're in need. And this is a tough one because you might be great at it and they might just suck at it. So our takeaway from this one, ask yourself, does your partner show up for you emotionally? Do they listen, support, and care when you're struggling? If the answer is no, or if the answer is a very shaky, I don't know, it's crucial to address this with them. Once again, communicate, guys, talk. I know sometimes, fellas, we can be stoic and we may not communicate how we feel. We may expect someone to read our minds. That's not good. Got to talk it out. Communicate with them. And find out if they really are a partner who isn't emotionally supportive, because that's somebody who isn't fully invested in your relationship. Now, they could be invested and they could just suck at it. And once you bring it up, they may want to make legitimate changes and they may actually make the changes you need. So you got to give them the chance to adjust, adapt, and be who you need them to be in this relationship. And that's not changing a person. Look, a relationship has requirements, and it's like expecting somebody to be faithful. Well, you're not changing them if you want them to stop running around and, sleeping with everything that moves. Or maybe that was in their past. You're like, maybe that was how you were, but with this, I need you to be this type of person. That's not changing somebody. That's having expectations in a relationship. I just wanted to make that point because, sometimes people say, well, we don't have the right to change people. No, if it's something you need for this relationship, you can make requests. All right. So don't settle because you get sold some bill of goods about changing people. Number 4, they're not interested in your life. So the 4th sign that you might be getting used is when your partner shows little to no interest in your life, your goals, or your passions. In a healthy relationship, partners take a genuine interest in each other's lives. They want to know about your day, your dreams, your challenges. They're curious about what makes you tick. However, if they seem disinterested, if they rarely ask about your life or engage in meaningful conversations, this could be a sign that they're more interested in what you can offer rather than who you are. Now, here's something, excuse me, much like sign number 3 about, lack of emotional support, interest in your life, it's not a yes or no. It's not a black or white, a on or off kind of way to view things. It can be anemic. It can be very thin, excuse me, or almost non-existent. They might say, hey, how's your day? And then you go through, let's say you're going through some shit and you go through a long 3-paragraph text and you don't hear anything back. Or you hear oh no, I'm sorry. I hope things work out. Now compare that to when you ask them how their day is and they go through all 3 paragraphs and you write back some more engaging questions and then you get another 3 paragraphs. You're having a conversation about their day. Do you get that back? Or do you get cake frosting? Oh no, I hope things work out. Or do you get drop offs? And I've been in relationships where you get the drop off and that yeah, today was stressful, oh, why is it stressful? And then, well, this is going on, that's going on, and so and so. And then crickets for the rest of the day or night. Okay, you gave me, if we're playing tennis, you served me back 1 time compared to I served you back 18. Now, you might say, well, Jackson, maybe that's just a difference in how people communicate. But they expect your 18 serves back. They're like, well, what, aren't you going to ask me more about my day? Or they want your input. They can't give you anything close. There's a difference. There's a problem. So takeaway, reflect on the level of interest your partner shows in your life. Once again, look at levels. This isn't that discrete that it's on or off or good or bad. I'm sorry, not good or bad, but it's on or off, zeros or ones, here or there, or here or not here. If they're not engaging with you on a deeper level, it might be time to reassess the relationship. Once again, communicate how you feel. Mutual interest and respect, mutual respect are very key components of a successful partnership and romantic relationship. Red flag number 5 in the, 6 red flags that you're being used in a relationship. They're unavailable when you need them. Once again, like I said, they could find you underwater at night across the world and you'll be there for them. The other way around, well, let's talk about availability. A partner who's genuinely interested in you and your well-being will make time for you. Guys, make time, not find time. They'll be there when you need them, whether it's time for a serious talk, a helping hand, or simply spend time together. But if your partner is consistently unavailable when you need them, it's a major red flag. When somebody has to find time for you, that means that through the course of their day or life or whatever, they have to find a quick 5 or 10 minutes to say hi, to listen to you, to reach out, etc. When somebody makes time, when you reach out to them or need them or want to communicate with them, they will make it happen. They will excuse themselves from a meeting. They will tell somebody that they're communicating with, unless it's urgent, they'll say, hey, hold on a second. I need to take this call. I need to return this text real quick. They will make time appear. When they have to find time, I'm sorry, you're secondary. Now, granted, there's emergency situations, there's urgent conversations that might, at the moment, outweigh yours in terms of their attention needs. But if it's consistent, yeah, you're being used. In a relationship where one person is being used, the other person often has an excuse for why they can't be there. They might be busy, preoccupied, or just too tired. But when they need something from you, suddenly their schedule clears up. Oh, and they need you. They got time to ask for it. This kind of behavior shows a lack of commitment and respect, especially when they verbalize that they expect you to be available when they need you. What's the takeaway? Well, a healthy relationship is built on mutual support and availability. Everything you guys keep hearing me say mutual, mutual, mutual. But mutual availability is key. If your partner is never around when you need them, and I shouldn't say never, right? Let's get away from absolutes. If they're rarely around or not half as around as you are, so you might have to do some math there and divide it. But they always expect you to be there for them. It's time to question their motives, especially if you reach out and don't hear anything for hours or days, maybe. I mean, that's really bad. But if they reach out and it's like an hour goes by and they send you another text or call again, like, hey, where are you? There's an imbalance going on. So, once again, communicate. Let them know how you feel. Ask for changes. If they say, well, I'm not changing it, it might be time to bounce. Might be time to consider ending this relationship. Our last sign, and very clear that you're in a relationship where you're being used, is that you feel drained instead of energized. So, the feeling of being drained rather than energized is a huge red flag. Because a romantic relationship should be fulfilling, should be rewarding. If it's not a source of joy, companionship, and mutual growth, then you need to consider what's going on. A relationship should uplift you, not weigh you down. A relationship should evolve you, not wear you out. And it's tricky because some relationships, be honest with you guys, some relationships land on both. This person might give you respect and support and commitment, but they're just not consistent with it, especially when, and here's a litmus test. When you're both going through some shit, if one of you can still be supportive to the other despite going through some shit, but the other one can't, that's another indication that you don't have a mutually supportive relationship. So, for example, I'm having a bad day and you reach out to me and I can still make time for you even though I'm having a bad day. That's huge. But if you're having a bad day and I reach out to you and all I get is your bad day back, and this is how we are, like if your stuff is always all consuming to the point where you can't communicate or support me, but you expect me to always be able to support you, even, regardless of what I'm going through, we got a problem. So if you're feeling drained by this relationship, by the majority of your interactions with this person, especially if things have changed, like, relationships evolve and they're not always, you get out of that honeymoon phase very quickly. But if you still don't feel that, like the butterflies, the juice, the excitement, and they become more of like a blight when you see them coming or calling, something's wrong. So, takeaway. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with your partner. Do you feel supported? Do you feel loved? Do you feel wanted instead of needed? Or do you feel drained and unappreciated? Your emotional and mental well-being should be nourished by your relationship, not depleted. So ultimately, how do you address the issue? Now that we've discussed the 6 signs that you might be getting used in a relationship, let's talk about how to address these issues. Recognizing the problem is the first step, but not taking action is where the real change can or cannot happen. Like taking action is where things start. So you got to see there's a problem and you got to start to do something about it. Number 1, communicate openly. The first thing you should do is have an open and honest conversation with your partner. All right, don't expect them to read your mind. Don't expect them to know that they're making mistakes. Express how you feel and discuss the specific behaviors that are concerning you. Now, avoid whipping out a calendar with a list of all their fuck-ups every day, because nobody's going to like being communicated to with that kind of like, arsenal waiting to be unloaded on them. And sometimes people aren't even aware of how their actions are affecting others. And a conversation can bring about positive change, right? But like I said, don't go back with a list and a calendar, because then they're just going to feel attacked or like overanalyzed or overstudied. Like, oh, we've been hanging out this whole last month and you've just been taking notes on how terrible I am. Like nobody's going to like that. Nobody's going to respond to that positively. Number 2, set boundaries. If the conversation doesn't lead to any meaningful change, it's time to set clear boundaries. Let your partner know. Sorry, I literally just popped my jaw in half at the hinge. Ouch. Let your partner know what you will and will not accept in the relationship. Boundaries are essential for maintaining your self-respect and emotional health. You got to talk. You got to communicate with them. And then you shore up your communication with boundaries. And boundaries are not always about, you can't do this and I can do that, whatever. But it's also about knowing where you start and where they start. And boundaries typically are healthy. Evaluate the relationship. After setting these boundaries, observe how your partner reacts. And if they continue to disregard your feelings and boundaries, you got to ask yourself, is this really worth it? You have to reevaluate the relationship. Remember, you deserve a partner who respects and values you. You deserve a partner who at times makes you feel like you're not doing enough of the things that you do right now. Like, you're like, oh man, you want somebody who loves you the way you want to be loved. You want somebody who can almost mirror your level of affection and consideration and appreciation. Consider getting professional help. A lot of times the things that we put up with, the things that we expect in a relationship can be baggage from God knows when. And if you're unsure how to navigate this situation, seeking the help of a therapist or a relationship coach can provide you with valuable insights and strategies. They can help you gain clarity and make informed decisions about your relationship, and maybe even if you should be in it in the first place or be in any relationship. Maybe you have healing to do. Healing that keeps causing you to pick relationships where you are being used. Lastly, prioritize self-care. Regardless of the outcome, make sure to prioritize your self-care. Focus on you. On your mental, emotional, and physical and financial well-being if this relationship is taking a lot of resources out of you. Surround yourself with supportive friends and family and engage in activities that bring you joy and that take time to reflect on what you truly want in a relationship. Now, guys, I'm not telling you to go and drop whoever this is immediately, but those are 6 signs that you might be getting used in a romantic relationship. And if you, it's like those quizzes. If you answered yes to the majority of them, you got to take a step back and look at what's going on. Relationships are a crucial part of life. And Lord knows they come with their own game. And relationships should be valued. They should add value and not take away from who you are in your life. If you find yourself in a situation where you're being used, remember that you have the power to change your circumstances. And here's one other key, I wouldn't say it's a flag, but it's a good indicator. Envision your life without this person. What do you get back? What do you lose? If you get back more than you lose by not having them around, that's an indicator you got to really rethink how things are. So the key takeaways from today's episode are simple. Pay attention to the dynamics of your relationship, communicate openly, set boundaries, and prioritize your well-being. Don't settle for a relationship that drains you. You deserve a partnership that uplifts and supports you. Guys, thank you for tuning in tonight to this episode of Game On with Jackson Stuart. If you found this discussion helpful, please share it with others who might benefit from it. And as always, stay tuned for more insightful conversation that will help you upgrade your life and win the game. Until then, players, keep it sexy and game on.